Everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, How Your Career Site Reflects on Your Company. We have a really great presentation for you today, and I'm really excited. Before we get to it, I just want to talk about a few housekeeping items. So first of all lines are muted, so if you have any questions, just feel free to type them in the questions and answer pane, and we'll get to them throughout the presentation. There'll actually be a few moments in the prezo where we're going to stop and ask for questions, so feel free to keep typing those in there. We'll also be recording this, so look out for an email from Glassdoor after this with the recording and the slide deck so you can share it with your friends and whatnot. Okay, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce our presenters. First, we have CJ Reuter. He is our Director of Account Management here at Glassdoor. And we have Gracia Huntington, who is the Global Director of Talent Acquisition at Jive Software. They have a lot of great experience working with different career sites. Gracia has a great Jive career site, and so we're going to get into some details and examples of that going forward. So with that, I'd like to just have CJ take it away and show you the agenda.
Great, thank you, Katie, and thank you everyone for joining today. I'm really excited about talking to this audience about the impact of a career site. So my background is that I have been working in the online recruiting space for probably close to 19 years now, and that was with Monster, with a social startup called Work4, and now over here at Glassdoor. So I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly of career sites, and I'm really happy to have Gracia Huntington with me here from Jive Software to talk about what they've done specifically and kind of have an employer-focused talk track around the agenda. And Gracia, if you want to just say hi and introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you so much, CJ. My name is Gracia Huntington, and I'm currently the Global Director of Talent Acquisition at Jive Software. My background spans about 25-plus years experience in recruiting, both in-house as well as with executive search firms, and I've worked with places such as Yahoo, Google, Netflix, and as well as some executive search firms, and more recently with Amazon's Lab 126, and now with Jive Software, where we have just revitalized and revamped our career page. So I'm really looking forward to talking about what our journey has been.
Great, thanks for the background, Gracia. So we're going to allow you to obviously ask questions as we go. So we'll stop between the bigger agenda points I'll cover right now and literally answer questions during the webinar. So please, if you have your chat box open, type in your questions and we'll get those answered literally at the breaks of every section of the agenda. Today, I would call this kind of a mid-experienced webinar. So we're not going to go down to the lower level of basics, but we're going to talk about some pretty sophisticated stuff within a career site because I think today's job seeker and today's marketplace for talent needs some strategy and needs some sophistication. So the impact of your career site, talk about what that means for an employer, what that means for job seekers as the first kind of bullet point. Second, really four specific ways to improve your career site. And it could be a benchmark for you to look at and say, I'm not doing those four, or I'm not doing those four to that level. We'll look specifically at other career sites and look at some screenshots and some ideas that we think are best practice within the marketplace for career sites. How to pump up your web presence. This is kind of the melding, if you will, of a marketing vision and then also the talent acquisition process. Really, it's kind of, they're becoming one and the same. We at Glassdoor, started with our background of kind of employer branding, and now we see kind of branding and talent playing a vital part of both of the things you have to focus on with your career site as well. Also, optimizing your career site. So not just pumping up your web presence, but also the optimization, the continuing best practice of how to keep that great. If you remember, a year or 2 years ago, everyone had the three different flash things that always, rolled across the screen. You see some websites that still do that. That's, still cool, but maybe not best practice anymore. And the simpler graphics, simpler language, the video testimonials, all that stuff can be done in a way that doesn't require a certain computer to have flash on it. And we'll also talk about, the mobile aspect of career sites as well. And at the end, we'll take questions that were asked, if there's any at the end, in addition to that. So to start with the impact of your career site, this is a big topic, right? This is probably if you have an ATS in place, the source could be your career site, right? And you may not be tracking the source from the outside world when it comes to your career site, but the impact of your career site is massive, and sometimes it's the number 2 or number 3 visited piece of a company's complete website is the actual career site. So this is a very important topic, especially for folks that live in the talent world or the HR world. So we have some questions I want to ask you, and specifically, can kind of silently raise your hand and if you have these things tracked or if these things that you do. So ask yourself these questions. Do you know how many people visited your career site in the last 30 days? Maybe you track it quarterly, maybe you track it monthly, but this is something that you should know. You should know how many people are seeing the graphics that you spent so much time designing, how many people go to specific web pages, how many people are actually going from that page specifically to a job posting and specifically starting the apply process. There's different functions of the career site. One could be to convert somebody to an applicant. One could be just to educate somebody about how great it is to work there and then have them come back later at their own speed. It just depends on the function. And also, you might have a great referral section and you're trying to drive people into the referral because you're trying to drive referrals because that is a better quality candidate based upon your metrics. The other question is, how often have you updated it? Do you touch it every 30 days? Is there a Facebook feed? Is there something changing for a job seeker, that comes back in 45 days later and says, oh, it's the same page, nothing's new here? Is there something that's non-static that is more dynamic with that page? The third question is, it should be, but if it's not SEO optimized, so social media hooks are in place and then also available for mobile. This is probably the biggest of these three because you may not control the IT team that controls that career page as much as you'd like, and you may not know and get stats from that, but you better have the search engine optimization done, the social media component, which can keep it non-static, and also the mobile piece of that as well. And the last one, which seems simple, but sometimes it's missing, is there a comprehensive list of your employee benefits available? Is that one of the links, one of the tabs, one of the headers, if you will, on those? And then, so Gracia, I also want to give you the opportunity to say if there's another question you want to throw in there, or if you have comments about these with your experience.
I think these are actually great questions to ask yourself. And in fact, when I was thinking about this presentation, I took a look at some of our stats. And last year, in total, we had about 157,000 page views on our career site. We have changed our career site in the last, let's say, 45 days to basically reflect our new company brand and to entice interest or engage interest on the part of the candidates. And on an annualized basis, we're already at about 170,000 page views for the year. So we are seeing an uptick in terms of interest. The last point that you're making there about the comprehensive list of our employee benefits, we feel that that's very important to candidates that are looking for opportunities now. So we've got a comprehensive list of all the interesting and wonderful employee benefits that we offer, all the way from 401k to actually wellness programs and transportation assistance. So these things I think are very key to put onto your careers page. Absolutely.
Any back on that benefits question, Geisha, I was just thinking out loud here. Is there any benefits that you've seen that really move the needle in terms of, people going to that page for the different companies you work for, or what you see, in Silicon Valley?
I don't know if we can vet out the actual movement of people looking at our jobs based on our benefits, but I do know that when people are applying, oftentimes in their cover letter they are referring to the benefits that we offer and our culture that we highlight on the website, which we will be getting to a little bit later, as being key attributes that have attracted them to Jive software.
Okay, great. Thanks for the input there. So once you've answered these three questions, one thing you also have to consider is what the job seeker community expects and wants. We see at Glassdoor kind of an immediacy and a future. And what this means is job seekers, they want to know what's going on now. They don't necessarily care about what's happened a month ago. They care, the last decade. They care about what they're going to be deciding upon now. Like, what is the culture? Who's the CEO now? Who do I know at that company? Who can I kind of connect with and say, hey, is this real? Like, I just watched this video about this super happy employee, but is that something you experience too? Because you work there in a different office, but I just want to make sure before I apply to this job that this is really the culture that I can expect if I get onboarded. And then they want that now. They want it quickly. I mean, you look at this picture, right? This is the old school, we put up the sign in the window, but this is the newest version of this. I've seen it, some of the HR technology shows I've been at, is you can put the, the QR code for your smartphones, and then they literally have, the jump link directly to the listing of jobs for that retail store. So this is the immediacy. This is, not just millennials. This is, I think, every job seeker. They're taking their time. They're researching a certain smaller set of companies that they've heard are great to work for, and they're really kind of focusing on those. So your site is making an impact on these people every time they come, whether you like it or not. So the immediacy thing is important, and I think the other thing to think about is if I've answered some of these questions, if I have the stats, I have the data, I'm keeping my page dynamic, what are other things I can do on a go forward basis to keep that immediate job seeker, getting the right information about our company and our culture right away. So we're going to cover 4 specific career site tips, if you will, to improve what you already have in place. So tip number 1 would be specifically to say, what exactly am I doing with my branding? So I know that I need to deliver a message, and it's got to be credible, and it's important that you specifically say, this is an emotional connection from a cultural standpoint. How do I motivate the prospect, and how do I create loyalty using my brand? This is a big question. So this is, for a lot of companies, it depends on kind of if you're a B2B company and you have a brand already that you can leverage, or if you're a B2C company and you need to potentially change what your traditional marketing has been to have it tilt, if you will, towards somebody who's not just buying your products or shopping at your location for a B2C company, but also thinking about working there. A good case study experience of mine is working with the Container Store, and they specifically hire a lot of people that shop at their store. They're just wildly organizationally focused. So they love the Container Store, they love what it stands for, they love organizing things, and they naturally just have people come up and say, hey, I'd love to work here too. Now, it's not the same for their corporate location, right? The store location, you can get away with some of that if you're a retail company, that's great. But if you're a B2B company only looking for white-collar professionals, you have to think about your employment brand. So when you're creating a career site, the most essential aspect is your brand. Like, how are you messaging this? It's the brand that you're trying to grow by hiring more employees as well. So when visitors look at your career site, you want them to understand that this is the message and umbrella under which they're going to be working. The brand's not fully, if it's not fully engaged or incorporated into your career site, you're kind of missing a big opportunity to take advantage of this, while you have somebody on that website. And Gracia, I know you have a lot of experience with the brand thing, so I'll turn it over to you to kind of comment on this as well.
Great, thanks so much. So one of the things that we went through with Jive software in general is a rebranding exercise with at the time, our Chief Marketing Officer, who is now our CEO, and she basically spearheaded an effort to redesign our brand so that we were much more transparent, that we were clearer in terms of our messaging. And so when we were working on the careers page, we decided that we needed to, one, reflect the company brand, what we stood for to our customers, but then also have a brand that reflected what it was like to work at Jive and all of the attributes and the values that we have. So in terms of redesigning our careers page, we basically incorporated that not only for the experienced hire, but also for interns. And we'll get into that in just a little bit in terms of some of the visuals, but it was very important that we were consistent with the brand promise that we make to the public, that we were also extending that brand promise to future employees.
And that's a pretty important thing. We've heard, even here at Glassdoor in interviews, I didn't believe what you said publicly on your website or what I heard, but now that I'm here in the office and walking around, I can see it. I can feel it. It's an energy. That brand promise could be multiple levels as well. We're going to take a look at a couple career sites in addition to going through these 4 tips, if you will. On branding, we specifically want to show you this page from Zynga, which is the website that has social gaming developer kind of focus on it. And really, if you look at this page, you're like, okay, there's not a job listing, there's not benefits. They have specific things that they want to tell the job seeker up front. So we care about you. We specifically want you to be part of our future. We run a lot of sales meetings here at Glassdoor, and what I always coach our reps or anybody going to the meeting, what do you want people to remember when they leave that meeting, right? This is the same thing when you're preparing a brand or a website. What do you want them to remember when they leave your website? So if they're talking with their friends about, hey, I just went on an interview or just researching this company, these are two pretty good things to remember. They care about their employees and they want to be part of your future. That kind of tells me, hey, I'm going to be working with a manager who's going to kind of show me a career path here. They don't want just people to do a job and then go home. They want them to help Zynga grow and be part of their future. So it's a big piece for this example. The next one is Ruelala. You may or may not know more about this company, but this specifically is kind of a magazine style. So it's just so different than the Zynga page. We want to show you kind of a different idea, where the video is front and center, right? The connection on the social side is on the right-hand side here, and they talk about their people. This has got to be the three things they care about the most. Somebody sat down and said, I want these three things to be what people see when they go to the Careers with Style page, right? And it gives it a flash, it's more fashion-oriented, and it conveys the heart of the company. You care about the people, here's an example of somebody who works here, and connect with us. So pretty simple things. And then the next page is the Jive software page. So Gracia, we're not comparing you, but we kind of are with the other folks there. And then Jive has done a great job of doing this as well, and they put their culture front and center. So I'll let Gracia talk about her own page and how they got to be developed and look this way.
Terrific. So one of the things that we wanted to showcase was how we actually live our day-to-day lives at Jive and as Jivers. You'll see, obviously somebody who's at work with a phone in their hand looking at their laptop, but then also some activities in the other pictures in terms of what we do when we're working, as well as when we're, interfacing with one another in the hallways. By the way, that's our founder there, the charming fellow with a big smile on his face. When we talk about working at Jive, we do talk about our mission and values. We've got them posted everywhere. We talk about them with our candidates. We wanted to also convey that on our website in terms of here's who we really are, and if this is something that appeals to you, we'd like you to be part of our team. And so we do actually have fun. We do actually work really hard, and we also give back quite a bit. And so, while it is a little bit of an infomercial, we do want to showcase, give a look-see into what a life at Jive is, irrespective of location or office.
Great, thank you, Gracia. So we're going to stop here. We have a bunch of questions kind of piling up, so we're going to answer those real quick. One of the first questions was, get a copy of the presentation. The answer is yes, you will. So if you've registered on email after this is over, you'll get a specific copy of the PowerPoint deck that we're going through, and there will be a link, I believe.
Yep, there'll be a link, and you can download the slide share, and you can download the recording.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Tiffany asked what examples Career Site's done right. So we just covered some of those, and Tiffany, we're happy to share more offline if needed. One is, would you suggest as a recruiting agency to list the benefits? So Gracia, I'll let you take this one. If you have worked with somebody that does a great kind of plan for listing the benefits on a career site, worked with some designers, how have you done that in the past? Or maybe it was just internal?
It's mostly been internal. With recruiting agencies, I think that it's a different value proposition that they're extending out to candidates in terms of engaging them to work with the agencies, if I'm understanding the question correctly. But in terms of internal work, I think you really need to identify with the brand as a company, the brand extension as an employer, and then also have fun with it, because people want to know that they're going to enjoy working with individuals and enjoy their environment, 10 hours a day or however long you're spending in the work environment.
Great, thank you. So another question we got is kind of a two-parter. How do you measure the success of your career site, and then how do you determine what should be updated every 30 to 45 days? I'll give you my answer, and Gracia can chime in. So the success of your career site, it should be known before you even build it, right? So what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to be sticky and have people stay there longer? Are you trying to convert them to the job list page and then ultimately convert them to Strut the apply process? So the metric Excel spreadsheets I've seen are straight traffic, views to each specific page, and then kind of to answer your second part is what you should change every 30 to 45 days. If the traffic isn't growing or static, you would literally change one of the pages or one of the contents of that page to see if it changes the traffic. This is what kind of e-com or web-based companies do, right? If you're a SaaS solution provider, you want to see how many people are visiting Glassdoor, how many people are going to this section of Glassdoor, how many people are looking at the interview questions versus the salary questions, et cetera. Just kind of standard stuff. And then the success, I've seen it tracked where you actually are trying to say how many people turned into a finished applicant. So you can do pixel tracking, you can do domain reader stuff from outside sources. That's typically what I've seen. And then Gracia, if you want to chime in about you know, how you say, hey, my career site got better than it was before, kind of question.
Great. So there are a couple of objectives that we have with our website. One is to attract the broadest audience. If you're going into our internships page, which we'll take a look at a little bit later, or the experienced hire page, we want to make sure that the messages are appropriate and that does lead to applications. Another thing that we find very important, irrespective of what broadcast medium you use, is we want to create buzz. We are hiring. We've got interesting opportunities. We are professional. We're going to respect your time, so we're going to make sure that the application process is succinct and tight and comfortable for people. But we also want this point of entry to be something that will be appealing. So we've got dual objectives in terms of, you know, what do we consider success. If we started to see a significant drop-off in terms of page views, if you will, even on Glassdoor, which is where we get a lot of our statistics, that would be a concern, and I would ask myself, what are we doing that's not appealing to the current employee or potential employee population?
Great, thanks, Gracia. Another follow-on question that I'll throw to you is, what sort of thing do you update on your career site, or maybe what you've seen in the past of things that you think, you know, add value as a, you know, if your mission statement doesn't change, don't change your mission statement, right? But are there pieces of the career sites you've built and kind of hosted in the past that you would say, hey, this would be a thing that you particularly want to change on a regular basis?
Sure. So one is certainly on the internships page, we'd like to make sure that the pictures of interns are pictures of interns and not existing employees, and that those pictures are not getting stale. In terms of, for the more experienced hires, what we are working on is a Jive culture video, which is going to be a 3-minute short video, if you will, showcasing what it's like to actually benefit from the culture at Jive. We think this is going to be really appealing to the audience, be the person an intern or somebody who is quite senior. We're showcasing internal mobility, opportunities to go into different functions. So we're thinking creatively in terms of how we want to convey our message with authenticity and with a real genuine air. I think you do need to take a look at your website or your careers page fairly frequently and ask yourself, is this the same old that somebody touched base with, 45 days ago or 30 days ago? If it's not showing movement, because let's face it, certainly in different pockets of the world, the tempo of business is accelerating. So we want to make sure that we're reflecting change and updating, and that it's new and fresh.
Great. I love the photos one, Gracia, because I've seen that where it's mislabeled. And you're like automatically like, that doesn't look like a diversity candidate to me. Okay, so we're gonna. There's a couple other questions, but I think they're more best for the later part of the thing. We will hopefully finish on time and have some of those questions answered. So we'll stop again in the future after we get to this section and answer some more. So the second step, tip, recommendation, if you will, is to strut your stuff. So you're selling them on joining your company. And we just had our Los Angeles Roadshow down in downtown Los Angeles yesterday for some companies that were best places to work. And to a person, the employers that presented on our behalf, we're talking about how to differentiate themselves. So, set your voice with images and tone, get personal, share your values. Authenticity came up multiple times yesterday and comes up a lot with, the strategy sessions to design career sites for a lot of companies. If the marketing team is robust and they fully understand that employment branding is a piece of their effort, synergy between talent and marketing, it can be an awesome thing. And we see the rise of an employment branding specialist or employment branding person at many of the larger companies that we work with. One thing to talk about, how great you are, innovation, free lunches, active lifestyle. It's another thing to actually show it through imagery and tone. So however you can convey that, we really do, have a stand-up desk or a sit-down desk or have the option to sit on a ball and we care about your health. If there's a team of people that talks about, nutrition, mention these things that don't seem like traditional benefits, but before a prospect hits the apply button, they need to be engaged and know what they're getting into. So what's it like to work there? What's the daily life like? Who will they be working with? Is it a goal-oriented organization? Is it a work hard, play hard? We all kind of know what that means, but what does it really mean for that company? Do they really play hard, or do they work like a dog and then they go home and play with their own, family and own dogs, so to speak? So say it, and then say how you're going to shape it with each candidate experience is important also. Just a few stats to share with you. 96% of job seekers say that it's important to work for a company that embraces transparency. So this isn't something that we made up. This is a survey we did in October. There's a new ebook coming out, which is the 50 HR stats that matter that you can download. And so you see the 49 there. You'll see some of that little green bar at the level with a number on it. This is the 49th stat in that ebook of 50. It's an incredibly important one, because if the leadership isn't transparent, isn't talking about the company's goals and the vision, the companies, that don't do that are going to be passed by pretty quickly by the companies that do engage their employees and do tell people what's going on. Another kind of important stat line is the top 5 pieces of information job seekers want employers to provide as they search for their work. So this could be the basis of your whole career site right here. Details on what makes the company an attractive place to work, either from the own company's position or from the job seekers. Details on compensation packages, the benefits, company mission values, and then basic company information. So are you public? Are you private? Who owns you? Who's on the board? That it's kind of like the About Us tab is probably the most visited if I'm doing company research, in addition to the What They Do tab versus the Career tab, right? And they should be consistent with each other, so that you have details on, what makes it an attractive place to work, details on the comp if you choose to share that. And if you can also just link to Glassdoor if you want as well, and provide the information through our services. So we're going to get to some examples next. So we'll talk about Zappos. Before we do, Gracia, anything else on kind of this second Strut Your Stuff tip that you want to share?
No, I think you're doing great. I know that if you take a look at the second bullet point, which is details on compensation packages, I think the standard line generally is, people will be compensated commensurate with their experience, and that gives a company flexibility. But I think it is important to let people know, is there a bonus system? Are there options or RSUs, the equity play? What other sort of, elements go into compensation, whether it might be, again, assistance on transportation, things like that. If you can highlight those, that is quality of work life that candidates are seeking. So I think that those are important things to showcase if you can.
Good point. I think even in the offer letters, to be quite honest, there's some transparency that's needed in those too, right? If there's a variable compensation or bonus, give them as much information as you can so that, when they're signing on the dotted line and are really excited to join the organization and they're making a change, that they do, that transparency exists and they know what to get into. So we'll go to the Zappos example. This really kind of is kind of a set your voice and share your values page for me. The tone of the copy should work with the graphics. So there shouldn't be a crazy, wild, Oompa Loompa Willy Wonka picture and then not have the copy to match it. And in this case, they're saying, does the shoe fit? They're making fun of their own business, which is great, right? So they sell shoes. Everyone knows they sell shoes, and they're saying, hey, does the shoe fit for you, at our organization? So I think I've seen a lot more fun copywriting and a lot more kind of exciting, kind of cheeky kind of aspects to people, especially if you're a small tech startup. You have to be different, right? You have to say, hey, this isn't your mom and pop's Cadillac anymore, right? To use kind of the automobile industry. This is something new and fun and different, and here's our missions, and here's a picture of somebody living those values. So culture is really the headline for the Zappos career site, and the visitors have plenty of opportunities. You may or may not know that Zappos did a crazy thing because they had so much demand for their workers. They actually put people into job categories and don't list specific jobs anymore. So you have to now sign up. So there's this kind of cultural shift that led to a cultural change on the front end of their tracking and talent. But they want you to consider, what about your company would make somebody want to work, at your company? Zappos is demonstrating an environment that's fun and a little weird, and if that is also something that your company believes is part of, what you want to share with somebody researching your company, then show that. You might have to fight for approvals to show something more fun. I think ultimately it's going to be a good thing for having people convert, if you will, from just researching the company to somebody who's actually applying. So Trustwave is another good example. This is really, really cultural. So it's all pictures, right? So they're saying, hey, they're a cybercrime fighting company. But look, I don't see anything about computers here. I don't see anything about coding. I don't see anything about handcuffs, somebody going to jail here. This is real pictures of happy people at work and I guess doing off-work stuff together too, along with the company's values and identity. So that's just another example. And then also we have the Jive Software Intern page. So I like this because it's different. It's not part of Gracia's regular page. It's specifically for the interns, and so the pictures, the culture, and the copy is all different. And Gracia, I'll turn it over to you to talk about why you built this and the impact it's had just for the intern program.
Terrific. So one of the important things for our intern candidates to know is that you are going to be working on real life challenges and projects that make sense here, but also you're going to enjoy your time here. You will be respected as an employee for the duration of your internship. You'll also be working on meaty projects. So, for us, we wanted to demonstrate that our interns are happy. Therefore, people are in casual meeting environments, as you can see from this page. We clearly have a monkey or a gorilla or something like that. I'm not really sure the meaning of that, but if it helps with creative thinking, I'm all for it. But as you can see, these people are, collaborating on something. There's a whiteboard behind them where it says Brainform, and there's a lot of thinking out of the box, out of the classic sit at your cube kind of construct. And so what we wanted to do was demonstrate that this really is a snapshot of the day in the life of an intern.
And we're going to keep it with you so you can explain kind of this cool concept you have called work types, which I think is awesome, not as a way to bucket people, but to also help people kind of think differently about what they want to do in the future and how Jive, thinks about the work skill balance as well.
Sure. For a little bit of a plug on a product that we put out there, we do have on our website the ability to take a work type survey, which is very, very quick. And this basically was the brainchild of our then Chief Marketing Officer, now CEO, and an outside agency, where we wanted to engage people with our brand. Basically, we are trying to change work style and how people work in their offices by creating connection, collaboration, and communication vehicles through our product. We felt that the work type is a little bit like a Myers-Briggs, if you will, but it's really short and you get the immediate results, meaning that what work type style you are. And effectively, people are taking this and reporting out on their LinkedIn profiles or in their cover letters to us when they're seeking opportunities what their work type is. And then also we're inviting candidates to actually take the work type survey prior to coming in. So we talk to them about that because it helps us figure out how do we build this diverse workforce, based on diversity of thinking and work style. So we find this as a nice pull strategy, either for customers, our business customers, and or our candidates, and it's been phenomenally successful, very interesting. And again, I suggest, again, just a plug for Jive Software, I suggest that you take it. It's really quite interesting.
Great. I just think this is so cool. And Gracia challenged us to take the work type quiz, and we will, Gracia, and then you can share your secret with us afterwards.
Awesome.
Okay, we do have a couple more questions, but I want to get through the 3 and 4 here of the steps, and then we'll stop for questions after this. So step 3 is kind of already talked about it a little bit, but now that you've taken the time to properly brand your site and share your culture, you need to motivate people to apply. So you need to be relevant and write strong copy. This seems like an obvious thing, but you'd be surprised by now that you're thinking a little bit deeper about the career site and go see other people's career sites, either that are competitors to you or might hire the same kind of talent. I'm sure if you're a thought leader and you care about what you're presenting to others, you've gone to other websites and learned from them. the best performing career sites feature engaging job descriptions that reflect the company's brand culture and environment. So just like I said, the copy on the career sites are getting a little bit more kind of cheeky and fun. I think you're seeing job descriptions that are doing the same thing. You know, welcome to a new age of your life if you choose to join us. Like more fun copy. There still has to be a HR official element to the language you're putting out there for the job descriptions, roles, and responsibilities. But you're seeing, you know, shorter lists that are bullet points. They're not laundry lists of qualifications and requirements. And you really don't want to bog down your descriptions with, you know, a ton of boilerplate stuff that your legal team says has to be on there. If you're a federal contractor, I understand there's certain limits and requirements. And if you have jobs overseas, you know that the language you use and all that stuff could be, you know, more restrictive. But think about the people that you want and people you're attracting. So what do you need to say, hey, we're different and we want you to come work for us? So humor, freshness, a little whimsy doesn't hurt. And then, you know, I would always say keep it professional. If, you know, share it with 4 other people and make sure somebody outside of your department looks at it and says, hey, is this okay if it's a sales job or a finance job, et cetera. But I'm seeing more and more of that. And frankly, I'm okay with it when I was a job seeker reading it. And I think a lot of other people say, okay, if you have this fun culture stuff on the website and I go to the job description, it looks official and legal, that's an inconsistent thing for me. So that also is something I would, you know, kind of think about as you're writing the copy and write it relevant. So Gracia, we're throwing up your Jive example here of some of the awards that you've done. So talk about the awards and how much of an impact this has had. I think you mentioned the traffic to your career site, and I'm thinking this probably is part of that reason, right?
Absolutely. One of the things that I think is important is that, you know, anybody can say, come work for us, we're the best. But if a third party, a neutral third party is basically saying they're the best, I think that it lends up much more credibility. So we wanted to showcase the top workplaces for the Bay Area, or the top, you know, companies to work for in Oregon, and also that we're, you know, an open company with Glassdoor and an active user on Glassdoor. We want people to check us out on Glassdoor. We want them to see the positive comments not only from candidates but also from employees on Glassdoor. And we want them to have as much information as they possibly can get their arms around in order to make an assessment of the opportunity here. Something that you were mentioning about position descriptions that I think lends itself nicely to this is that at the end of all of our position descriptions, we do have cultural attributes that we are positioning, whether it's, you know, collaborative, being results driven, things like that. So we try to showcase again who we are with a little bit of personality in the body of our position descriptions.
Great, thanks, Gracia. So we're going to look at another example here, which is eHarmony. And eHarmony specifically is showing you that, you know, there's a play aspect here, and there's buckets of types of jobs. So they're not just showing you the job lists. They're saying, hey, under product management, we have these titles, and it's in Santa Monica. Under analytics, we have these titles, and they're in Santa Monica. And this is kind of an approach that, for those folks who have been in the industry for a while, Jobs to Web kind of came up with, and agencies have done as well, saying, hey, on the way in the door, do you want people to look at a list and just define themselves based upon where they live and what they've done in the past? Or do you want to say, hey, there's careers in these specific areas, and talk about what it's like to work for that team at that location? And then, you know, they say keep it real and fun on this website, and they say work and play. Okay, then I better see that through the interview process. I better feel that when I interview with somebody who's doing the job, or the hiring manager better kind of, you know, exude those values or let us know. So if you come to interview at Jive Software or Glassdoor or wherever you are, that interview process is going to have to be supported by, you know, this example of what they're trying to portray here at eHarmony. And then, so in addition to that, we're talking specifically about being applicant-friendly, which is step 4. And this, again, seems so simple, but I think it's one of the hardest things to do. So you've talked about the culture, you've talked about your differentiation, and you've got more whimsical with your job descriptions and the pictures and culture, et cetera. So you also want to keep it simple. So I've gone through many a meeting where we literally sit there and say, how many clicks did it take for somebody to go to our career page, either prompted by a social media tweet, or they researched us on Google search or wherever. I don't know how they got there, but once they're there, how many clicks does it take to look at a job, get familiar with our company, and then apply? right? So keeping it simple. And then also mobile. 50% of Glassdoor's traffic is mobile. We have, I think it's 3 million downloads a month now. So it's a crazy number of people who are using our application, but they're also coming from a mobile device to look at the content on Glassdoor, or even to look at the interview ratings specifically at a certain company. And those people are still on a mobile device. They may not be using our app yet. So you have this two worlds of mobile, and both worlds, eventually are going to go to a website at the end of the day. And if that website's not mobile, then you've, create the pinch and zoom headache that we're all familiar with on a smaller screen. I would also say that socializing your jobs is, over 60% of the companies that we work with have at least 2 or 3 social strategies in place on different websites, and then help your candidates be successful through the process. So if the interview process is still rigorous, then you got to simplify that. Keep in mind you're not trying to intimidate users. It's a cost-benefit analysis of extra screening questions in your form on the application process. Zappos uses a 2-page application process where they fill out their current information, cover letter. I'll let Gracia just a second talk about hers. There's a company called Huge, and it's required that they just give you their resume, email, first name, last name. Again, if you're a federal contractor, you have to ask some EEOC questions, etc. But keep that field to a minimum, and at some point you're just trying to get them to engage. A lot of companies have this, talent pipeline or community network they're building. Some talent directors love that stuff, some don't, just depends on who you are. But it will make it easier for them to say, oh, I want to learn more about this. Companies like Accenture do an alumni newsletter just for people who want to keep in touch with the company, or they do a career newsletter that they produce content for and they send out on a regular basis. So there's many ways to be applicant friendly, and ultimately the more you focus on this, it does come back to, is it simple just to register with us? Do I have to do a full application? Can I do it with my mobile device? A lot of people just say, hey, give us your email and we'll send you the link for the full application, because we know it's harder and we really probably don't have your resume on Google Docs or Box yet, but for these reasons. So just diving into a little bit more specifics around mobile, because I think this is a pretty relevant topic. You have 89% of the people really think that the mobile device is going to be an important tool for job seeking. That is a massive number. That's pretty much everybody. I mean, you might as well just call it 100%, because if it's 90%, then the 10% that are not, maybe don't even have a phone. I don't know who those people are. So it's going to be part of their research. It's going to be part of their social networking, asking if they've worked there, etc. 59% say it's important to be able to share a job from their mobile device and later apply, which is the experience I just kind of set up for you guys. 48% think it's going to be the most common way to search in just 2 years. So, Gracia, I know that you're working on becoming mobile, and you're probably in a common spot for, I don't want to just throw something up that's mobile that doesn't, speak to the same applicant-friendly process, but I know I got to do mobile at some point. I have to strategically do it. It has to work with my ATS. It has to, flow to my hiring managers and be able to be processed in the same, efficiency. And then before I have you jump in, Gracia, just the last stat is 90% of Fortune 500 career sites actually don't support a mobile apply. So it's not something that's built yet, but I think that everyone's either working on or talking to, or the ATS is trying to upsell you onto their mobile version. That's kind of the conversation that's going on. So Gracia, maybe you can share a little bit about your experience prior to Jive, and then the Jive software mobile progress to date.
Sure. So in the last company where I was, we were exploring mobile applications, or even tablet applications at job fairs and things like that. And it is a little tricky in that you want to make sure that the experience is seamless, enjoyable, and quick for the candidates. Because people are in disparate locations, whether they're at their desk or on the bus or on the train or in their home, they want to be able to access your website and be able to take some action pretty quickly and easily. One of the things that we're working on is we use Jobvite, and I have to tell you, here's a plug for Jobvite. It's the best applicant tracking system I have used by far, and the ability to tailor the experience on the fly is wonderful, great support and what have you. So we are looking to Jobvite to help us migrate to a mobile application where people can look at our jobs and apply if they'd like, and be able to upload their resumes and or have some sort of a simple application process wherein we can engage with them and they can engage with us as well.
Great. So we're going to talk just give a couple examples and dive into the mobile a little bit more. So Logitech created a fully optimized mobile career site. So this mirrors their desktop and branding. It's powered by Jobvite. It's a mobile apply capabilities, and it extends our employment brand. So again, if you have an ATS that can support this, that's probably the easiest route to go. You can also bolt on a couple other solutions in the marketplace. The bottom line, though, is, without spending a ton of time on the specifics of mobile, you should have this option to collect the information from the candidate and have them register and/or give them the full apply process. As a follow-up to that, the next slide just talks about pumping up your web presence. So I'm going to stop here on the mobile, answer just a few more questions that have come in. The tracking of Glassdoor traffic. So this is how you're tracking Glassdoor traffic. So we actually have something called Vitals, where you, as a paid Glassdoor member, can track all the visitors to your page and then all the visitors and job clicks to your job solution. So we kind of sell three things. We sell the employer page itself. We sell the job ads if you want to distribute jobs beyond just your page. And then we track those specifically. So if somebody's coming to your career site on Glassdoor, your employer profile page we call it here, then we'll give you that stats and analytics in something we call the Employer Center. So we'll be able to log in, you can have multiple people log in, and then have that information at your ready. In some cases, we've had clients say, hey, the data you give me on my Glassdoor career site is better than data I can get on my own career site from my web team or my marketing team as well. Specifically, data that's available on the employer profile on Glassdoor is a lot. So we give you the ability to do a reputation scorecard and compare the interview question stats, the benefit stats. We actually track job clicks. We give you demographics on who's coming to look at your page. The analytics is very robust. We hired a chief economist recently named Andrew Chamberlain, who's going to be producing a couple reports as well. So we're sitting on a ton of data here. There's 28 million registered users and roughly 23 million come every month. We're almost as big, if not bigger, than CareerBuilder on a month-over-month basis now. So all those people are either leaving content or looking to research content or looking for jobs. And so we have over 7.5 million pieces of content to research, and then about 25% of the traffic is outside of the U.S. So we're getting more global, and we're looking at ways to obviously deliver that back to every company that has the paid employer profile page. The tool to track visits, I don't know if you want to give it an example, Gracia. Google Analytics is typically what you can use. There's other page trackers as well, pixel tracking, there's third parties. I don't know that it matters if it's DoubleClick or Google Analytics, but typically those are the sites that we've used in the past. I don't know, Katie, if we use something different on our web pages.
I think Jobvite, does Jobvite do that, Gracia, for you? I wasn't sure, but.
It doesn't, well, it may. We probably don't have that service where we're tracking efficacy of the applications and the process. We are actually relying on Glassdoor a lot for just kind of quick snapshot traffic flow, clicks, who's taking a look at which positions are getting the most traction, and then we're also working with our own web team here to figure out what seems to be working. Where are we getting a pop in applications. So we're taking a look at those two sources and trying to marry them together so that we can figure out what's working and what's not working.
Okay, great. This is a good question. So what's considered a career site? So we didn't really define that at the beginning of this. We're looking at the employer's own career site. The question was, is Glassdoor a career site? Is your LinkedIn profile a career site? CareerBuilder, Indeed, or whatever you've built in the public eye. I would say there has to be consistency with all of them. Obviously, we let you put and control all the content you want on Glassdoor. For the purposes of this webinar, we're talking about your own career site, but obviously, in some cases, Glassdoor gets a lot of traffic for bigger branded companies that have a lot of job seekers researching what it's like to work there and before the interview and look at the salaries. So we don't define career site as the Glassdoor career page. We call that employer profile page. But I think strategically, the reason I'm bringing this question up is you need to have consistency no matter where they go and look for your content across all those sites.
There needs to be a brand extension. So, for Jive software, we do have elements of our corporate brand, the color scheme, the design on Glassdoor. We're also taking a look at having our hiring managers and their teammates blog on sites such as LinkedIn or perhaps even Facebook and Twitter to basically generate interest. So the career site, our definition of career site is what we have the most control over, which is literally on the Jive software site itself. But then also we try to extend that brand recognition and the brand promise to potential employees through all different outlets, media outlets as well.
Okay, great. One more question, and we'll go to the pump up your web presence at the slide you're seeing here. So, Gracia, I'll let you answer this one. It says, with the best way to drive traffic to your own career page, which I think is something that probably people would want to hear, and maybe you can just comment on that real quick before we dive into the next section.
I think the best way to drive traffic to your career page is to recognize that every single touch point you have with candidates, whether it be a news article, when you reach out to somebody via in-mail or email or a telephone call, everything needs to be consistent with respect to how you're going to treat these individuals called future employees. And so what will end up happening, this even includes like behavior when you're out and about, what ends up happening is that eventually it starts to develop a brand out there, a recognized brand that is created. We may think that we're in control of it, but actually it's created in the minds of people that have touch points with our companies. And so once people start hearing about an opportunity and the cultural aspects, the work-life balance or even experience, I should say, then you start driving traffic to your website. But you can have a snazzy website, but if you're not looking at the brand, the employer brand extension holistically, you're only taking a look at one data point, and that's just not enough. It's an important piece because once they're there, they become fully engaged. But you want to make sure that all touch points with candidates are ensuring a consistent experience. Hope that helps.
Great, thanks, Gracia. Good stuff. I knew that you would nail that one because you have more experience on that than I do. That's a great segue. We're going to cover just a couple more slides, and then we'll do kind of pause to wrap up. If we go over, we'll stay on a little later to cover questions if people want to stay on, if you did get your answers already. So that kind of ties in with pumping up your web presence. So where that traffic comes from, that consistency, if you will, that brand extension that Gracia was talking about. The data shows that it matters, right? 79% are likely to use social media in their job search. Again, that's a very, very high number. Jobvite has a report out that says, Facebook is like 76%, I think, and LinkedIn and Twitter are all in the 40% or higher bucket for being used as a social pattern. In my experience, this all happened in kind of the economic crash of 2008, 2009. Job seekers needed jobs, they needed help with the jobs, and they went to the free version of everything. So you see the rise of Craigslist, the rise of LinkedIn as a communication device, the rise of even Facebook saying, hey, I need a job, I'm going to tell my family members and my friends to help me. I'm not proud anymore, I need labor, and I need a paycheck, right? And so the free version is kind of what people stuck with even when the economy recovered. 86% in the first 10 years, are likely to use social media in their career site. I would say that's as high as it probably could be. 2 and 3 say their employer does not know or use social media, so that's a huge miss. So 80% of people saying I want to use social media, 66% of the people saying, as an employer, saying, I'm not so sure I'm ready to take that leap. And again, this is kind of a vertical thing. So if you're in the financial industry and you have tight regulations around what you can say, what you can do, and then how you regulate social media, that's different, right? I don't think that company's ever going to, be able to do what the talent people at the company want them to do. But if you don't have restrictions, then, you should have more of an aggressive policy around social media. It's going to matter. The business impact articles of social on the business, not just talent, are very, very strong. You can't deny the fact that this does work outside of marketing, if you will. And I think it's going to be, strongly adopted in recruiting for the next few years and into. I don't know what social media is going to turn into, but it's going to be part of it, definitely in the future. And then 3 and 4 say the employer doesn't know how to do it. So it's new, right? It's kind of an educational disruptive thing that's happening right now. And I think the sooner you adopt, the better. I was having an article with a conversation with somebody from one of the big accounting firms, one of the big consulting companies, and they were asking us, hey, so if you have a great relationship with one of these social media, when can we get on Instagram, right? How can I get Instagram to become a tool? Because I have employees that are using Instagram. I have, a traffic and a brand that is already happening, and I'm not there, but I want to know how to control that. So that's what's happening is as you see the millions and millions of people kind of rush into the next social media tool, you kind of have to be smart about either deciding to go there or not go there. And I think Twitter's a good example. You kind of have to tweet these days if you go to any conference or you want to have an opinion. Twitter's it's a platform that everyone is familiar with and using, but then how do you strategically use it for talent? Like, do you have another Twitter handle just for your talent? Those are decisions you're going to have answered as well. It all comes back to basically a multi-channel marketing. So Gracia just talked about this. You have your career site. You maybe have a blog site. For us, we have, the fortune of maybe working with Jive Software. You have, a controlled career site that you can use and get analytics from too. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Google+, there's LinkedIn, there's Instagram. So you have all these things that are already happening without you influencing them. 2 of the 3 presenters yesterday at our LA Best Places to Work Roadshow already had a hashtag about either I'm with Slalom Consulting or Life with MindBody, which is one of the employers that talked. 2 out of the 3 speakers, without us even asking them, said one of the things that's working so well is we're socially media savvy, and this is this simple thing where we just started a hashtag. And so if you're having fun with somebody that you work with, mention this, and we might even post it on our career site as a stream for the Instagram feed. And then, of course, your Glassdoor presence. So, Gracia, I'll turn this over to you as we wrap up here, and we're going to talk about Jobvite at the end, our sponsor. Just real quick, some of the benefits you've seen from the Glassdoor page you have, and how you've used it to enhance your strategy.
Super. So we really value the Glassdoor rating system, and one of the things that we have heard from candidates is that they've definitely checked us out. Now, one of the things that I think is really interesting about our personal brand on Glassdoor is there's so much positive commentary about working for Jive that sometimes it may not seem credible. So we do encourage people to take a look at the interview reviews. And then, also we do have an occasional sour grape that falls in there, which I think is awesome because it does lend credibility to our positioning. We try to address those with calm and with respect and engagement to let these folks know if they did have a bad experience with us that's atypical, and we are definitely going to learn from that experience. So we feel that the Glassdoor tool and solution is very, very important to us, not only from the branding perspective, which you can see on the right-hand side, but also the statistics that pop up immediately with respect to recommending to a friend, our rating trends, as well as our CEO approval.
Excellent. So one quick note is we're not too salesy here at Glassdoor. We really are here to help you engage employees and get more transparent and try to, our mission is to create a place that you love as a job seeker and a company you love. So just want to tell you that you can unlock your free employer account. So if you're looking at your own company page on Glassdoor and you don't have a paid relationship with us, you can literally request it. And this is the field you'll see when you click on the Get Access. And we will give you control of your page. We do, ask for domain email authenticity, and once you validate that you work for the company, we'll give you access. And you can control the photos, you can respond to reviews, you get a little bit of thin analytics, if you will, but this is, your page. We don't keep you away from it, and we want the right people to be managing it. And if you want a paid relationship with us, obviously we'll put you in touch with an account manager and talk about what that relationship looks like. And thank you, Gracia, for the kind comments. Also, we want to thank the Jobvite folks for helping us fund the great webinar we talked about today. We have a bunch of questions at the end. I'm going to give Claire some time to talk about Jobvite now, and then once she's finished, I literally have like 10 or 12 questions. So if you did ask a question you want to hang on, we'll stay on and get through most of those, and we'll probably stop at about 10 minutes after 12. So Claire, you want to jump in and say some things about Jobvite?
Yeah, and I do want to say, this is a webinar meant to educate everyone on improving their career sites, their job requisitions, all of that. So I will keep it brief. But Jobvite does offer a mobile career site product. We help you update your career site. We help you fully optimize your career site for mobile, and it allows candidates to apply directly from their phone, whether from their Dropbox account, from their LinkedIn. They can take a photo of their resume, all of that. But whether or not you're a Jobvite customer, whether you are one of our competitors' customers, whatever, mobile career sites are really where the future is going. So definitely reach out to your applicant tracking system, to your CRM, whoever helps, whatever recruiting products you do have. Invest in mobile. It is the future. So thanks, CJ. I'll pass it back over to you.
The future, as my old CEO at Monster used to say. Great, thank you, Claire. So I'm going to roll through these questions. Would love for you to stay on and listen to them if you have time. Probably like 6 or 7 here we'll cover. So this is a kind of a Glassdoor specific question, but I think it's a good question that we'll answer is, how can a company take steps to reverse the negative perception of Glassdoor? What can be done from a branding perspective? So I think it's a little deeper than just branding. I believe that the negative perception on Glassdoor, in most of the cases, we have kind of just to set the stage for how we work. The content team for Glassdoor is a completely separate entity and controls all the content on Glassdoor. The account management team that I direct and lead really doesn't have a whole lot of authority over the content team. What I mean by that is, it doesn't matter if you pay us a ton of money and you have a great relationship with us. If a negative review does not, violate our guidelines for content and it's published on our website, then we're probably not going to take it down. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, it has to have, be anonymous, and we have to have the integrity of that person's review there. We will validate if something's legitimate or not, whether that's, a true email address that was just, built yesterday on Gmail just to be a rant or, to fluff up ratings, if you will. We catch most of those. We have about 5 to 7% of all the content that does not go live. And if it can be validated that it's not a legitimate email address from a legitimate past or somebody who just interviewed in the company, then we'll take that content down. But the negative perception is built over time and is probably real in our experience. We've been doing this for 7 years. Our leader and founders are coming from kind of the travel and TripAdvisor world of ratings and reviews. We have a really, really strong piece of our business that is got to be rooted in integrity and authenticity of the anonymity of the people leaving the content. And what it comes down to is engaging your employees, either using internal surveys or changing your culture at your company to say, can we listen better? Can we listen and then actually react and change what's happening? Just one quick Glassdoor story that happened to us is, we pride ourselves on being transparent. We're the company that's doing this work, but we had somebody write a review that said, hey, I was interviewing and the hiring manager used a cell phone during the interview. And that kind of felt wrong to me. And of course, it went all the way up to our CEO. We had an executive meeting about it, and everyone looked at each other and goes, that wasn't me. I would never do that, of course. Well, the fact is, it happened. It was real. It was a real piece of content, and it was a negative review, and it was legitimate. And so we changed our policy around how we interview based upon that feedback. So just a simple little example of things, and we get stories all the time, because what's happening now is in the interview process, the recruiter or the recruiting manager or the hiring manager are hearing about Glassdoor from the job seeker in the actual interview, and it's not just anecdotal anymore. It's consistently heard in the interview and live in person, whether you're Skyping or in person or on the phone, and then you're seeing it on the website, and it's validating itself. It's saying, oh, there is a problem with our hiring manager process in, our Austin, Texas office, or in New York, for instance. So it's not that you can just change it with branding. I think it's got a fundamental change in transparency on how you deal with your employees and the employee engagements. We have a lot of decks and information around employee engagement. We're happy to share with you as well. Is this webinar on any continuing education eligibility requirements? Do you know?
No.
It's not eligible for CE credit was one question. And question is, it looks like 66% of employees say their employer doesn't use social media, while 75% say their employer doesn't know how to use it. Does that mean that 9 to 10% of employees feel their employer is using social media but doesn't know what they're doing? It's a really good question. I can't answer that. But I think what it does show you, I think this came in from Ken, is that there's lack of consistency even with people following their own company. So I could be socially active. I have a Twitter handle, HR Knowledge. I'm on LinkedIn, been on LinkedIn for years, and I am fairly active on Facebook, but for more personal than business. That doesn't mean I know exactly what my company's doing for social, right? Until somebody asks me to tweet something or somebody and says, because a lot of the company's social could be a B2B play. It could be very targeted. It could be B2C. So this question is a tough question to ask from even current employees or post-employees of a company. But I think what it shows you is I think there's more belief that social media is a part of my job-seeking behavior, and more employers just aren't strategically announcing that or even telling their internal people about that as well.
Can I chime in on this one?
Yeah, Gracia, please. Absolutely.
One thing that we do here at Jive is that we partner with our communications and social media team so that we are ensuring that we are utilizing these social media outlets responsibly and consistent with our brand, because I may think I know what our brand is, but I'm not working on it day in and day out, the company brand. So I am working with those folks in partnership and in concert to make sure that we are getting the exposure, that we are using those venues, and that we're using them appropriately. So again, to extend our employer brand and be able to attract people. So if you're not doing it yourself, certainly partner with those that specialize in that area within your companies.
Yeah, great feedback, Gracia. So 2 more questions. These are kind of loaded, but I'll take them anyway. One is, what if you're a small company and your reviews and your profile tend to be old or outdated? Should we ask current employees to leave reviews? Up to you guys. Our answer is of course, right? So any kind of feedback from a current past employee about what it's like to work there is going to be more important to the person researching to decide to work there. This actually question came up yesterday in our LA Red show. Is I only have 50 employees, so whoever leaves that review, the HR department's probably going to know who left it, right? Depending on how they leave that review, and is that really anonymous at that point? It's a tough thing to if you're a smaller company to do this, but I think it is important because if nobody's left a review since 2014 or 2013, or however old these reviews are, then I don't know how much validity that has. So we actually, your overall rating that we give you, the 5-star rating system, the average, by the way, is about 3.2 for all companies. I think over time, that review has less validity because the culture and the leadership and the vision and the change happens so frequently in businesses today that it may not be the same place to work as it was when the review was left. So constant and morally updated content is important. And the other thing I would say on this is the content and review itself, when it's dated, carries more weight in our overall ranking in terms of our algorithm. So older ratings naturally have less impact on your rating the older they are. So if you only have old ratings, then it's going to be 100% of your rating in terms of our algorithm. Gracia, you may have some employee engagement feedback on this one too before I take one last question.
One of the things that we do encourage internally is, please put a rating on. We don't ask them to spin it a particular way. We have an employee survey that we put out annually, but this is also another way to get, quote-unquote, anonymous feedback. People can certainly put down whatever title they want to. They can kind of manipulate that so that they are not discoverable. Our intent isn't to find out who they are as much as what can they teach us about how we're doing as a company. So we do encourage people to get on there from all of our offices, and that includes the international offices as well.
They're from a bunch of different sources.
Okay, great. So one last question from Melody here is, are all the numbers and percentages from the Glassdoor October 2014? Some of them were, some of them aren't, so it's not consistent. We can either answer that directly.
Yeah, sorry, it's on our blog. If you go to download the actual document, you can go to employers.glassdoor.com under ebooks, and it's the 50 stats ebook, and included in there is a link to where all of the stats came from, and then we also have it on our Glassdoor blog as well. And sorry, Gracia, I just interrupted you earlier.
Nope, that was a closed sentence, so no worries.
All right. Well, if you have
Hey,
any
Katie.
other, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just had one thing. One of our account managers came on. There was a question about measuring visitors to your career site, and I got an answer from one of our account managers that if you are a Jobvite customer, you should see Google Analytics in your Jobvite instance. So if you have any questions about that and you are a customer, check in with our support, whether that's your account manager or if Jobvite cares.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. Feel free to email me, katie.williams@glassdoor.com, and I will forward on your questions to the correct person to get it answered. We will be giving you the recording after this as well as the slide deck, so please look out for an email from us. And thank you so much to Gracia, CJ, and Claire for a great webinar.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your Thursday.
All the
Thank
best.
you.
Thanks, Gracia. Bye.